We made it! Happy opening day and welcome in to Fantasy Baseball today on Thursday. That was a lot of days in there. March 27th. I am Frank Stampfl, joined by Scott White and Chris Towers. Today on the show, we are talking bold predictions, week one sleepers. That's right. People are setting their lineups. And we will preview the 2025 season. Yes, Chris, I heard your comments last night. We have been previewing the season all year. But we're going to talk about general baseball stuff, division winners, wild cards, award winners, World Series, all that fun stuff. But let's begin with bold predictions. And Chris, you are up first.
Bold prediction number 1. Mike Trout is a top 10 outfielder for fantasy baseball. And I know what you're saying. I know the peanut gallery out there saying, oh, he can't stay healthy. Mike Trout can't stay healthy. Well, you know who else couldn't stay healthy? Ken Griffey Jr., who had played 83 or fewer games in 3 straight seasons from 2002 to 2004 before rattling off 128, 144, and 143 in a span of 4 seasons. So 3 seasons out of 4 with at least 128 games. And he was like 3 years older than Mike Trout at this point in his career. I don't know that playing right field will help keep Mike Trout healthier. I suppose there's some logic to it. You don't have to back up every single fly ball the way you do when you're playing center field. So it should be less wear and tear on his knees. I just think we're going to get one more healthy season from Mike Trout, at least, right? It's entirely possible he just stays healthy moving forward. It's not the likeliest outcome, but it's possible. And so this is a guy, when he's still been on the field over the past 2 seasons, you're talking about a 41 homer, 12 steal pace. I think the batting average is going to be better than it was last year. And I still think he's absolutely an impact player. It's not the likeliest outcome, but it's likelier than you think.
You weren't actually addressing what I was thinking, Chris, which is it's not bold enough. I want something that strains credibility, that pushes up against, tests the limits of what is plausible. Barely comprehensible outcome. That's what I want. And Mike Trout has been drafted as a top 10 outfielder basically every year except this year. I think it was 16th last year.
I'm going to Scott sent me his before the show, right before the show. I'm just going to go look and see if he's stretching credulity. And I'm going to be honest, I don't think so. Well, I think this is bolder. I think because the way people talk about it is like, you can't draft Mike Trout. He never stays. He can't stay healthy. There's no way.
Well,
people
are drafting him though.
Yeah, but you know what I mean.
He's the 28th outfielder off the board. ADP all offseason is 108.5 at the NFBC. I guess if you want to take it one step further, something like Mike Trout finishes top 5 in AL MVP voting, something crazy like that. Because
I actually think that
won't happen.
If he stays healthy, I think he's basically a lock to finish that high in MVP voting.
Chris, let's have a little bit more fun with it. How many games do you think he has to play for this to happen?
I think if Mike Trout plays 135 games, this could happen.
Okay, give me a projected stat line if he plays 135 games.
275 batting average, 38 home runs, 87 RBI, 92 runs scored, and 9 stolen bases.
Love it. Scott, you're up. Bold prediction number 1.
All right. So a lot of these are bold predictions I've been sprinkling in throughout draft prep season. So you may have heard some of these before.
You can't say the one that you brought up yesterday, though.
I can.
Be a new one.
I can.
Be a new one.
No, I
Those
can.
are the rules.
No, it's not a rule.
It's a rule.
I am the host of this show.
They may want me. Somebody listening right now is like, "What was it? I didn't hear it."
I want to know.
All right, just go.
But I'm not going to start with that one. I'm going to go with Bailey Ober and Shota Imanaga flip ERAs from a year ago, within a 1/10 of a point. And their ERAs were basically more than a run apart last year. 3.98 for Ober, 2.91 for Shota Imanaga. But I think it's essentially the same profile. Elite strike thrower, fly ball tendencies, pretty good swing and miss ability. This makes them reliable for whip, but less so for ERA, which is why you saw that big gap between the two. Proof of concept, though, Ober, if you're looking at expected ERA, last year, Ober, whose ERA was more than a run higher than Imanaga's, actually had the better expected ERA, 3.22 to 3.39. So the boldest claim I can make that essentially says these two are more or less the same in terms of expected outcome is that their ERAs will just flip. So that's what I'm doing. That's my bold claim.
This is the guy taking shots at the lack of boldness in my claim.
I just want to run apart last year, and I'm saying they're just going to trade.
Yeah, that's just how ERA works.
I didn't think you, but a lot of people worship at the altar of ERA.
I didn't think it was that bold either. But Scott,
only because you've heard me say it before.
Maybe I might have heard you say it. Scott, how much do you worry about Bailey Ober's velocity being down this spring? Because I know a lot of starters' velocity was down, but he doesn't really have much to give. There was like 90.
Well, you know who else's ERA was down? Velocity was down this spring.
Oh, I know.
Shota Imanaga's.
That's right. Well, do you worry about both of them?
I mean, to the extent I worry about every pitcher.
All right.
I'm just going to say on the Scoville take, on the Scoville meter, this is black pepper.
What does that mean?
It's not very spicy.
Okay, you want a spicier one?
Let's go for it.
I'll flip to the back of the book here. All right. Here's a 2-for-1 combo.
Uh-oh.
Ronald Acuna has more combined home runs and stolen bases than Bobby Witt. There's one. Here's another one.
That's bold, yeah.
Lawrence Butler has more combined home runs and stolen bases than Ronald Acuna. I'm going to call these mutually exclusive outcomes, but they're plausible. I'm calling them plausible.
Yeah, I think that's plenty bold.
The Acuna one, much more bold. Lawrence
Which
Butler.
One? Acuna was in both of them.
Well, I think the Lawrence Butler one,
Bobby Witt is much.
The Lawrence Butler one is only bold if the first one is also true.
Well, then I'm saying Lawrence Butler has more combined than Bobby Witt. No, exactly. I'm going to call them. I'm going to call them mutually exclusive. I'm not. I may be bold, but I'm not crazy, Chris.
Are you going to send me that one? Because that's considerably more bold than the three you sent me.
Yeah, but it's not as interesting. It's just kind of saying something, It's not like here's my rationale for it.
So what did Bobby Witt? What was his combined runs and or stolen bases and home runs last year? Like 60?
I think it was 62 or 63.
Yeah, 63. It's a good number.
A lot. It's entirely possible Acuna goes 30-30 from the time he returns.
Yeah, and 3/4 of a season. Yeah.
I mean, I have him as a bust just because the injury stuff, and I worry about that, and I like to play it safe early on. But it is entirely within the range of outcomes. I do recognize that.
But is that a backdoor Bobby Witt bust call?
No.
Okay.
I thought of a lot of these combo ones, but I didn't want to do one for a player that I just have so much confidence in, right? Like Bobby Witt, for example, I'm pretty sure we're all confident in him. So anything where I was doubting a first or second round pick, I wanted to make sure it was a player I was like, maybe a tad bit worried about this season. And now I don't know if my bold predictions are bold at all. So I guess you guys will be the judge of that. Number one for me, Robbie Ray is the most valuable left-handed pitcher in the National League. In other words, he outperforms Chris Sale because I was looking through ADP.
Shota Imanaga.
Lefties in the National League. There's not many high-end ones. Like there's Justin Steele, there's Imanaga. Chris Sale obviously just won the Cy Young. But Robbie Ray has been getting pushed up draft boards.
Well, Blake Snell.
I jotted down a similar Robbie Ray one, I think, thinking along the same lines. Yours is a little bolder, but mine was Robbie Ray leads the NL in strikeouts because I was looking at the pitchers I might predict to lead in strikeouts. Skubal AL, Reagan's AL, Crochet AL. You do have Skeens, of course, in the NL, but yeah, I don't know. That's something I could see happening. And I want to make clear, maybe you guys feel differently. When I think bold predictions, again, I am talking about testing the limits of the plausible. I am not saying I actually believe this is going to happen. I'm saying it's not implausible that it could happen.
For me, it's I want them to be directionally right.
Right.
It's not like this is the far end of a thing I think could happen. So like Mike Trout is a top 10 outfielder. I don't think that's going to happen, but top 20 outfielder, I think that's extremely realistic. And I think top 10 is apparently very likely, according to you guys.
My premise, by the way, for the Robbie Ray one, outperforming Chris Sale this season, is that he manages to stay healthy. He just strikes everybody out. He's got that deceptive fastball, great slider, and now a changeup that he learned from Tarek Skubal. And with Chris Sale, takes a little bit of a step back and perhaps deals with some lingering injuries throughout the course of the season, which again is, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it is a possibility for Chris Sale, who's dealt with a lot of injuries in his past.
All I'm saying about your Mike Trout one, Chris, and I'm sure people don't want to hear us argue about how bold something is, but all I'm saying is for the entire decade prior to this year, so as recently as last year and the entire decade prior, nobody would have thought it was bold to predict Mike Trout to be a top 10 outfielder.
But he actually hasn't finished as a top 10 outfielder since what, 2020?
I'm just saying, nobody would have called that a bold prediction prior for the entire decade prior to right now.
I would not have called it a bold prediction before this year.
Okay.
All right. Well, before we take our first break, we did it. 31K by opening day. Originally, it was 30K. We got all the way up to 31K. So thank you to everybody who subscribed and stick with us. For those who haven't subscribed, subscribe because we're going to be coming every weeknight basically throughout the course of the season. Talking, recapping all the games and talking standouts and waiver wires and trades and all this kind of crazy stuff. So there's going to be a lot of content coming your way. And make sure to subscribe to the FBT newsletter as well, cbssports.com/newsletters. Scan the QR code on the top right of the screen. If you're watching on YouTube, Chris puts a lot of work into this, gets delivered to your inbox every weekday for free. Next, our in-season programming schedule. We'll be live on YouTube Sunday through Thursday nights, very late at night. Let's say sometime between midnight and 12:30 a.m. Eastern time is when we will start. Why
in
so
April?
Late? Well, yeah. Why so late? Well, we have to recap all the games and we have to wait for West Coast games to wind down and the pitchers to leave those games so we can obviously get the data and all that fun stuff. We'll probably go earlier on Sunday nights, let's say 10 or 11 p.m. Eastern time. You will have an audio podcast in your feed every Monday through Friday throughout the course of the season. Let's take a break and we'll be back right after this quick commercial break.
One of golf's elite courses, Quail Hollow, hosts the game's top players at the PGA Championship this May on CBS.
I feel like we haven't gone through nearly enough bold predictions for 13 minutes in. Let's go.
All right, Scott.
Let's go.
Let's go. You're up.
Rapid
Go.
fire.
Let's go. Come on.
Rapid fire. All right. My bold prediction here is going to be Christian Yelich hits his most home runs since 2019. He hit 44 that year. He is not going to hit 44 again. That was, remember, a near back-to-back MVP award season for him. But he hasn't even hit 20. He hasn't even hit 20 in the years since hitting 44. And the reason he fell off so much, his back was messed up. Had surgery finally in August, came back this spring. We weren't sure. Is he even going to be the same after back surgery? 3 home runs in his first 6 games. And basically looked strong at the plate throughout in spring training. So I'm hopeful that this back surgery will put the back pains to rest and at least get him to 20 plus, maybe even 25 homers this season.
So let me just get this straight. Your bold prediction is that Christian Yelich will hit 20.
No, that is not what I said. My bold prediction is he'll hit the most home run he's hit in 6 years. How is that not bold enough?
I mean,
I'm just saying.
You're saying he's going to hit 20 home runs.
Mike Trout as a top 10 outfielder isn't bold when he's
Christian
barely
Yelich hits 90 home runs this year. Let's go.
Home runs is a bold. I'm just saying.
6 years. I'm saying the most home runs he's hit in 6 years. What do you want
say
from
30?
Me?
Say Christian Yelich hits 30, and that's bold.
Okay, 30.
But
I wasn't trying to put an exact
runs.
number on it. I was saying most since 2019 sounded pretty dang bold to me.
That does sound bolder than Christian Yelich.
Okay, I won't elaborate next time. What do you want from me?
I'm just saying it's not
I'm
that bold.
I'm clarifying because I wanted to look into the yearly logs and see how many home runs
he hasn't even hit
year.
20. He hasn't gotten halfway to 44 in 6 years.
All right. Let's say Christian Yelich hits more home runs than 2023 and 2024 combined. That would be 31 or more home runs this season. That's pretty bold.
That would be bold.
That would be pretty awesome.
Okay, it's not pithy, but fine. Like, write my bold predictions for me. I don't care.
Nobody's saying to write them.
All right, Chris, you're up. Give us a bold prediction.
I think this one is bold. Both the Miami Marlins and the Chicago White Sox, those two trash heap teams, have top 50 players in fantasy baseball in 2025. The highest drafted player on either of those teams is 82.95 in ADP. The second highest drafted player on the White Sox is 285. So boy, if it's not Luis Robert, that one's going to be real bold. The Marlins have multiple players inside of the top 160. Xavier Edwards, 140.9. Sandy Alcantara, 154.7. I would say Sandy is the likeliest player on the Marlins to finish in the top 50. And the White Sox one really depends on whether that player has to be on their roster the whole season. Because if so, then I think Luis Robert has a pretty good chance of being a top 50 player. I think there's a chance Luis Robert is a top 20 player. He was 2 years ago. If they have to spend the whole season on their team, then this one's probably not going to be right, because I don't think there's anybody else on the White Sox who even has a chance to be a top 50 player. However, I will say Sean Burke has big stuff. He got a lot of strikeouts in the minors. He walked a ton of people as well. But maybe there's a little bit of history repeating itself here. Last year, the White Sox had a starter on opening day who had never made a major league start before. This year, they have a starting pitcher who had never made a major league start opening their season. I'm not saying Sean Burke is Garrett Crochet. I'm saying Sean Burke is not Garrett Crochet. But I do think there might be a little upside, and I think he is one of the more interesting, maybe the single most interesting pitcher to watch on opening day, just because everyone else is good. And we have no idea if Sean Burke is good, but I'd like to see if he can be. So I think that one is sufficiently bold. I don't think we can pick nits on this one.
I do agree Sandy Alcantara is the most likely player on the Marlins to finish as a top 50 player this season. For whatever this is worth, Xavier Edwards, in an MLB Network interview, said he is aiming to steal 60-plus bases this season. So if he does,
was on that pace last year, yeah,
or anything close, that might be your top 50 player for the Marlins this season. So we shall see. Bold prediction number 2, Josh Lowe outperforms Jarren Duran. Bold. I don't know how bold that is, but last season, many dubbed Jarren Duran as this year's Josh Lowe. Now, Josh Lowe will be this year's Jarren Duran. So they're gonna flip spots, basically. Not that I think Duran is gonna take a huge step back, but he's a player I've had trouble pressing draft on in round 2. It's just it's that psychological thing of like his ADP was at 150 last year. Now he's a second round pick, and I don't really like buying at the peak. And Josh Lowe is basically in that same spot now. He's in that like 125 to 150 range in ADP. Love the fact that he's playing in George Steinbrenner Field this year. Should play up lefty power. I think he gets back to a 20-30 player, which is what he was 2 years ago. I think he was really just hampered by injuries last year. So Josh Lowe, power and speed returns, outperforms Jarren Duran this upcoming season.
I have noticed you guys seem to be lower on Jarren Duran than I am. I've drafted him, I think, 5 times this year now, including, I think, in the points league yesterday, or maybe the one today. I can't remember now. There's too many drafts.
I don't really have a good reason outside of just.
No, I get it. Yeah.
Like buying it off the career year, basically.
No, I get that. And I don't think he'll be quite as good as he was last year, but still the leadoff hitter and one of the best lineups in baseball. I think that lineup could be really, really good this year. So I would be shocked if Josh Lowe was better than Jarren Duran, partially because I'm lower on Josh Lowe than you guys. But I get I like the idea, the thought process behind it.
All right, Scott, one more bold prediction. What do you got?
Just one?
Yeah.
I had us doing 3, right?
Yeah. We sent 3 each to Chris, right? So that's
Man.
what
and we have an MLB bold prediction.
we also have to do week one sleeper, Scott. We've got
I don't know that I was giving you my best ones then. I thought we were doing a lot of bold predictions.
So just rattle off as many as you want. Go for
it.
All
All right, here's some bold predictions. You ready?
Let's go.
The Brewers have 4 30-homer guys.
Hoskins?
Who are they?
Hoskins, Contreras, Yelich, and Churio. David Hamilton gets more at-bats than any other Red Sox middle infielder. Isaac Paredes, you're probably familiar with this one. Isaac Paredes 2025 is better than Alex Bregman's 2023 or 2024. Alan Rodin is leading off regularly for the Blue Jays by May 1st. The Mets starting third baseman at season's end will be Brett Beatty. Bo Bichette wins the AL batting title. Xavier Edwards wins the NL batting title. The Mets have 4 players with at least 90 runs and 90 RBI. That would be Lindor, Alonso, Soto, and Nimmo. All 3 of the Dodgers' MVP bats and every one of their starting pitchers spends time on the IL this year. It's the only way the league has a chance.
You know what? So for tomorrow's newsletter, I asked everyone for 3 fantasy bold predictions and 1 MLB bold prediction. And your MLB bold prediction and my MLB bold prediction actually have a lot of overlap. Again, I want to stress bold. The Dodgers don't win the NL West. That's my MLB bold prediction. Look, you look at the projections and they are like 13 games up on the next closest team in the NL West. But it's like you said, there are injury concerns abound on that team. They're not playing for April through September. They just want to get in. I'm sure they would love to have a bye, but they have contingencies on contingencies. They are not going to push their guys in the regular season. That's my bold, extremely unlikely prediction.
Take it one step further, Chris, and predict the Rockies will win the NL West.
Gosh.
There's bold.
That would be as bold as it gets.
Yeah, there's bold, and then there's got bonked on the head right before the show, and I'm not going to go there.
Zach Veen gets called up and becomes Ohtani.
Jackson Churio is the number 1 outfielder in fantasy.
That's bold.
The Rays rotation has the highest ERA of any rotation in the American League. This is mostly because I think their pitchers are poorly suited for that venue.
That would be pretty bold. Yeah.
I did specify Did I say nationally? I did specify league and not like American League rather than the whole league because of the Rockies.
Yeah.
Right. But even then, I'm saying, the Rays are in the same league as the White Sox and Athletics. So anyway.
The White Sox actually have some sneaky, interesting pitching.
Alex Bregman sets a career high in batting average. I said it, Frank. I said it just like I said it yesterday. Alex Bregman, he hits over 300 at Fenway Park, banging singles and doubles off that green monster.
That one I do think is pretty bold because he's basically lived in the 250 to 270 range the past couple of years.
Oh, well, I'm glad it can meet your standard of boldness.
Hey,
you didn't want me to say it. So.
You were the one who set the standard early on in the show, Scott. So
Ryan Mountcastle and Jordan Westberg both hit 30-plus homers. Wyatt Langford top 3 in MVP voting. Spencer Schwellenbach top 3 in Cy Young voting. Jacob deGrom throws 160 innings.
That's bold.
That's my bold take on deGrom, not my normal take, which is that he won't even get to 100. Chris Paddock will be the ace of the Twins. They got some pretty good pitchers there, but maybe he'll be the best. You worry about the innings management, but hey, he's a free agent. Just let her rip, Twins.
That might be the boldest one you've said yet.
Gavin Williams ends up being more valuable for fantasy than Cole Reagans was last year.
Who was
Spencer Strider.
Gavin Williams.
So I had Robbie Ray leads the NL in strikeouts. Spencer Strider leads the NL in strikeouts. Obviously, mutually exclusive outcomes. Grant Holmes makes the All-Star team. The Blue Jays place ahead of the Orioles in the AL East.
That's just my prediction, actually.
Craig Yoho takes over as Brewers closer by June.
There you go.
Craig Yoho.
Craig Yoho leads the Brewers in saves this season.
Love that.
Craig Yoho really needs to be traded to the Pirates.
for a bottle
because they
of
need
rum?
a closer, obviously.
Yeah. Yes, that would make sense. Scott, it feels like you made a bold prediction for every team in baseball. So
I was brainstorming, and that's what I came up with. I'm sorry they weren't. I'm sorry not all of them were sufficiently bold, and I'm sorry I yelled.
Oh, gosh. All right, Scott. Chris, do you have any bold predictions? Anything else you want to get to?
I got one bold prediction left. Jackson Jobe outperforms Roki Sasaki in 2025.
I love it.
There's about 120 spots of difference between them and where they were drafted. I think that's bonkers. I think Jackson Jobe is 98% as talented as Roki Sasaki and is better situated to be an impact player right away in fantasy than Roki Sasaki. That's my bold prediction.
Yeah, I was going to do a Sasaki one as well, but I saw you had already made one. I was going to make it, he makes more starts in the minors than the majors this season.
Oh, that'd be, yeah.
Very clever.
Yeah. My third bold prediction here is very similar to one that you had, Scott. Isaac Paredes leads all third basemen in home runs this season.
Ooh.
So, yeah, I mean,
you
there's
stepped that up a little.
There's a lot working here. You know, as we've said all offseason, we love Isaac Paredes' approach, and being in Houston now, it's a match made in heaven, obviously. He had 31 home runs 2 years ago, and I think he can get back to that level. For this to happen, he has to probably take it one step further. We probably have to get 35-ish home runs from Paredes, and then a bit of a down year from like Jose Ramirez, Austin Riley. Maybe those guys are in the low 30s in home runs, and then Paredes breaks through with like a 35 home run season, which would be pretty awesome, but also something he never did before. So
I do want to point out, like, you know, Jake Berger is a third baseman technically in fantasy, and he obviously has a lot more raw power than Isaac Paredes, but like, I kind of expect similar power production from the two of them. Berger's going to hit his homers a lot further.
Yeah.
But he's going to make a lot less contact. His home park's not nearly as good. And Paredes is perfectly suited for that league. So it's, you know, style versus substance. Maybe Jake Berger is going to hit a lot of loud home runs, but Isaac Paredes, I think, is one of the best bets for home runs at the position. You don't get extra points for how far they go.
A few New York related ones that I was thinking about doing. This one is definitely not bold enough. Clay Holmes outperforms everybody in the Yankees rotation, which now it's just Rodon and Max Fried basically that he has to outperform. And I saw this one on Twitter going around recently too. And so I would get bashed for it. Cody Bellinger outperforms Juan Soto, which would be obviously insane, but you know, maybe Soto first year mega contract. I think he'll still be really, really good. Maybe it's like 280 with 30 home runs good and 5 to 10 steals. And maybe Bellinger goes 30-20 with like a 280 batting average. I don't know.
You're kind of asking for the upside case for Bellinger and the downside case for Soto.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Could happen.
I
like those combos.
Soto is maybe a little overrated for fantasy this season. I never got to the point where I wanted to put him on a bust column or anything, because that's dumb. It's Juan Soto. He's awesome. But like, Citi Field plays very similar to Petco Park. It's got similarly deep power alleys. He hits the ball hardest to right and left center field. I can see, like, look, a disappointing Juan Soto season is like 270 with 34 homers, right? Like that's pretty much what he did in his worst year in San Diego. It might have been like 260. But I can see Juan Soto being relatively disappointing in the first round while still being an incredible player overall. But for fantasy, you know, the 140 walks don't help quite so much, especially in Roto.
The craziest one I thought of was Jackson Holiday outperforms Gunnar Henderson this season.
Yeah.
Which would be a combination
It's
of
plausible.
Gunnar Henderson deals with the intercostal strain for way too long, and Jackson Holiday breaks out and goes 2020 or something like that.
And again, I want to stress for the commenters that are like, these guys are crazy. They're shooting their credibility.
That's the whole point.
Yeah, that's why these are bold predictions and not just predictions, which you've been hearing all the weeks prior to this one. I also want to comment on Craig Yoho because I did mention him, and probably even people who've been listening all spring, a lot of them may be like, who the heck is Craig Yoho? Craig Yoho, between 3 stops in the minors last year, had a .94 ERA, a .94 whip, 15.8 K per nine. It was 15.6 K per nine this spring. His changeup was being compared to the Devin Williams airbender, right? Like, this looks like a potential elite reliever. He did get optioned at the end of spring training, which frankly kind of surprised me, but I don't think Craig Yoho will be down for long, and I think he has closer upside.
Did Abner Uribe make the club?
I did not see that. For what it's worth, by the way, all the projection systems have Craig Yoho for between 40 and 50 innings this season, so they do expect him to get pretty significant run in the Brewers bullpen this season.
And just to draw a finer point on this, last year, Ryan Walker had a 32% strikeout rate. Ryan Walker was awesome. He had a 32% strikeout rate, which was the 19th best among all relievers. Craig Yoho's strikeout minus walk rate last year was 32.8%. No, sorry, 34.3% in the minors. That is just absolutely ridiculous. He's so much fun to watch. He's like he seems like kind of a little guy when I've watched him, but he's not. He's 235 pounds, 6'2". But he is electric and really fun to watch. So I am a big fan of Craig Yoho. I will say, if I did think about a Brewers bullpen bold prediction, which was that Abner Uribe leads the team in saves.
I think Trevor McGill is my most drafted reliever, so please stop with these predictions right now.
That wouldn't be great, but look, it's nothing against Trevor McGill. I think Trevor McGill's good. I think he's not much more than good, right? Like, I think he's good enough to keep the job all season, but I don't think he's like a difference-making arm, and I still think Abner Uribe could be that. I think Craig Yoho could be that. I think they're both really interesting sleepers this year.
All right, let's take our final break. By the way, if you want to check out all of our bold predictions, there's a few others we didn't mention here, like bonus MLB predictions. Then you can find those on the site. Chris is going to have an article coming out here on opening day. Let's take our final break. We'll be back right after this.
Baby, we are going to start a fire.
From world-renowned clubs
Simply devastating.
to worldwide stars,
Wrexham have done it. This incredible ride continues.
the English Football League on CBS Sports Network, and stream every match live on Paramount Plus.
Welcome back in Fantasy Baseball. Today we have 30 minutes left in the show. So here's what we're going to do. 10 minutes for week 1 sleepers, 10 minutes for news and notes, 10 minutes for our season predictions. So, Scott, we have 10 minutes to talk about week 1 sleepers. And we will start with sleeper pitchers for the short week. So if you're setting your lineups for just today, opening day, Thursday through Sunday, March 27th through the 30th, these are the pitchers that you should be looking at. We will also talk about sleepers for the long week in just a second. But Scott, who are some sleeper pitchers you like for this weekend in particular?
Yeah, the short week is the default CBS settings. So if you don't use that, your numbering for the weeks is going to be off the rest of the year, because week 2 for you will be week 3 for us, but whatever. Anyway, short week. I like Jose Soriano most among those rostered in less than 80% of the leagues. That's the cutoff I use for this, less than 80% for CBS Sports leagues. Jose Soriano gets the White Sox and had back-to-back strong starts to end spring training, good at keeping the ball on the ground. Drew Rasmussen gets the Rockies in Tampa, in Swamp Renner Field, but it's the Rockies on the road, which is good. And also, I think Rasmussen being a ground ball pitcher, he'll be one of the least affected Rays pitchers by that environment. Nick Martinez gets the Giants, and we'll see if the elite control gains from last year carry over. Tomoyuki Sagano gets the Blue Jays, which is not the easiest matchup, kind of mid-tier, but he'll have the element of surprise going here in his major league debut, and is efficient enough to work deep into the game. Would you like? Taj Bradley also gets the Rockies in Tampa. A lot more worried about him at Swamp Brenner Field, but the Rockies don't have a lot of good hitters, and he may just pile up a lot of strikeouts in that game. Mitch Keller gets the Marlins. Always risky with Mitch Keller, but hopefully he can at least take advantage of the Marlins and go deep into the game if he does. Jeffrey Springs is at Seattle. He finished spring training strong after a worrisome start. Max Meyer gets the Pirates, like the matchup, like what he showed with new pitches and improved velocity this spring. I just wonder if he'll go deep enough to be all that impactful. The most pitches Max Meyer threw in a spring start is 65. And finally, a couple more A's pitchers pitching at Seattle this weekend. Luis Severino and Osvaldo Bido, who's only 9% rostered. So widely available if you're in a deeper league.
Sleeper pitchers for the long week. So this is opening day, March 27th through April 6th. So I know a lot of head-to-head leagues will just do one long week and 11-day scoring period. There are 2 names on this list, Scott, that you already mentioned for the short week, Soriano and Mitch Keller. But there are 3 names we have not mentioned yet. Who are they?
Justin Verlander is one. He's at Cincinnati first outing, which is a little scary, but then he gets the Mariners in the second one. He looked like he might have something left in the tank this spring, and is good at eating innings if he's pitching well. Casey Mize, you can't ask for better matchups than the Mariners and the White Sox, which he gets in the long week. I'm not sure Casey Mize is actually good, but he did show signs of improvement this spring. Added velocity on the splitter, was getting more whiffs with that. Hopefully, worst case scenario, the damage is mitigated against those 2 bad lineups. And then finally, Chris Paddock, great first matchup at the White Sox. And we saw his fastball start to generate tons of whiffs in spring training, last couple starts especially. It's not clear if he is getting a second start. It would be against the Astros. Actually, I don't think he's going to end up making that second start if the rotation order is updated on the team's official site.
Honestly, I might prefer him to just start against the White Sox.
It kind of depends what the format is, right? But yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. Chris, if we're just talking about streaming early on in the season, we mentioned a lot of the teams here that Scott has pitchers going up against. Which teams are you looking to take advantage of most? It feels like the White Sox, the Marlins, the Mariners. Is there anyone else that top of mind that you're looking to stream your pitchers against early in the season?
Rockies, anytime they're on the road. I think that's arguably the worst lineup in baseball when they're on the road, especially. It'll be more so throughout the season when they're leaving Coors Field because of the Coors hangover. But yeah, I think it's Rockies on the road, Marlins and White Sox are kind of the clear worst lineups in baseball right now.
All right, let's move over to hitters, the best hitter matchups for the short week. Again, this is March 27th through March 30th. So basically this weekend, the Red Sox, Pirates, Marlins, Rays, and Angels, best hitter matchups. The worst hitter matchups, Reds, Phillies, Tigers, Cardinals, and Guardians. That doesn't mean bench your studs on those teams. It means if you have a close call, maybe you lean with benching, a fringe player who has really bad matchups this upcoming week. Scott, who are some sleeper hitters that you like March 27th through March 30th?
Yeah, I think as a general rule, you're going to stream hitters less than pitchers. But if you play in a deep enough league or have had some injuries already, you might want to stream some of these guys. One of them, the number one, is Lourdes Gurriel, who is facing 3 lefties in the Diamondbacks' first 4 games. Last year, Gurriel hit lefties to the tune of a .331 batting average and .885 OPS. Jorge Soler, just like their pitchers benefit from it facing the White Sox opening weekend, so do their hitters. So Jorge Soler's on here. He had 5 home runs this spring. Taylor Ward's on here. Good week for the Angels. Michael Toglia, now, again, the Rockies are on the road to open the season, but Swamp Brenner Field, I call it that because its actual name is Steinbrenner Field, same dimensions as Yankee Stadium, but in the hot and muggy air of Florida. So Swamp Brenner Field. Ball should travel better there than Yankee Stadium. And Toglia hit like 2/3 of his home runs on the road last year. Anyway, Matt Wallner, supposed to bat leadoff for the Twins when they face righties, and they're facing a few mashable ones to open the season: Sonny Gray, Eric Fetty, and Andre Palante. So maybe a couple homers from him. 3 Red Sox here. Now, the Red Sox, I can definitively say their matchups have gotten worse in the last 12 hours, and I haven't had a chance to update it. They are now facing DeGrom in the 4-game weekend when initially they weren't supposed to. But the other 3 Rangers pitchers they're facing are pretty weak. And it's a 4-game schedule, which not every team has. So I have Christian Campbell on here, Trevor Story, and Ceddanne Rafaela, who, by the way, did show improved plate discipline this spring, and it was a point of focus for him. I think he actually walked more than he struck out this spring. I'm skeptical it'll carry over because you don't get much worse plate discipline than Ceddanne Rafaela.
I mean, he walked about 20% as often as he struck out last year.
It is something to monitor, though.
Yeah.
Michael Busch is on here because Cubs play 4 games. I think just 1 is a lefty. He might sit that game, but it's just the 1. Yeah, just 1. And then Max Kepler, who the Phillies are facing Mackenzie Gore on opening day, but I don't think there's really any other option. I think they'll have to start Kepler against lefties, and if they don't, he'll get 2 games against Trevor Williams and Jake Irvin. So with the improvements Kepler made with the swing this spring, working with Kevin Long, I am excited about him, and think it could justify using him even opening weekend.
All right, the best hitter matchups for the long week 1. Again, that's opening day, March 27th through April 6th. The Blue Jays, Angels, Red Sox, Pirates, and Rays. The worst hitter matchups, Dodgers, Giants, Padres, Nationals, and Orioles. 4 names on your sleeper hitter list for the long week, Scott. You've already mentioned Gurriel, Soler, Tolia, Matt Wallner. The one is one of your favorites. The one we haven't mentioned, one of your favorites, Jonathan Aranda.
Yeah. So he gets to play at Swamp Brenner Field too, another left-handed hitter who gets to take advantage of that. How many of their first 9 games are there? Since we're talking about the 11-day scoring period now, 6 of the first 9 games are. And matchups are the Rockies and Pirates pitching staffs in those games. And only 1 left-hander on the schedule for the entire 9-game slate. So Jonathan Aranda should play plenty.
All right. Again, those were your week 1 sleeper hitters and pitchers. If you want to read it on the site, feel free to do that. Check it out. You can see all the names there as well. Let's move over to the news and notes from Wednesday. And we have a bunch of players going on the IL, and a lot of these things we've talked a lot about already, but we'll remind some people. Shane McClanahan with a nerve issue in his triceps. Yu Darvish, with right elbow inflammation, though he did play catch at Petco Park on Wednesday, so that's good news for him. Zach Geloff with a fractured hamate bone. Royce Lewis with a left hamstring strain. Brooks Lee with back tightness. Connor Norby with the oblique injury. It's Graham Pauley who will be on the Marlins opening day roster. Sean Murphy with the cracked rib. Clark Schmidt with shoulder soreness. Gerard Encarnacion with a fractured left hand. DJ Hers to the 60-day IL with a sprained UCL.
Explains why he was so bad this spring.
Yeah, that one kind of came out of nowhere. So that's an updated one. Tyler Stevenson with the oblique injury. Alexis Diaz with the hamstring. That's what we're going with, a.k.a. control. Austin Hayes, this one kind of out of nowhere, a low-grade calf strain. And it doesn't sound like he'll be out too long, but it does kind of change the early season lineup for the Reds. Also because one name who is not going on the IL is Spencer Steer. He's going to be active on opening day, which comes as a surprise. Sounds like he will be the team's DH to open the season. So, Chris, how do you think things kind of shake out here for the Reds early on? Roster Resource has Gavin Lux in left field with Spencer Steer at DH, Jeimer Candelario at third, Christian Encarnacion Strand at first base.
Yeah, so the Hayes injury helps because this was going to be a headache. And I wonder if Steer would have started on the IL if Hayes had been healthy.
Yeah, possibly.
Just because he's probably not healthy enough to play in the field right now. So he's likely going to spend a lot of time at DH. And I would guess it's exactly what you said. Lux in left, at least against righties, CES at first, Jeimer Candelario at third, Steer at first. However, this is probably a short-term injury for Hayes. So The minimum IL stay, so bear with us. The minimum IL stay is 10 days. However, players can be backdated at least 3 days to their previous appearance in a game, which means that for most of these guys, the minimum IL stay is actually next Friday. They can be activated. So we could have this issue in a week. Right now, it's probably fine and nobody's going to get squeezed, but there's not going to be much margin for error for Lux, Steer, CES, or Candelario, because it's going to get pretty crowded there. And look, if Noelvi Marte shows signs of life at AAA, that's another name that the Reds will have to consider, because they want to make the playoffs. They don't want to make the playoffs so bad that they went out and spent money this offseason, but they want to make the playoffs. And they're probably going to have a relatively short leash with a lot of these guys. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens in Cincinnati. For the first week or so, it's probably fine. I think I am sitting Spencer Steer in at least one league where I have him. Just we don't know what he's going to look like with this shoulder injury, but the shoulder injury never affected his swing last year or this spring from everything they said. It was more about playing the field.
Liar, liar, pants on fire. It turns out Jared Jones has been diagnosed with a UCL sprain in his right elbow. Still expected to go for rest and rehab, which is, I don't know. It's just kind of confusing because
it's a lawyer's dodge, right? Well, I guess they never announced anything yesterday. It was reported that he did not have any torn ligaments in his elbow.
I saw no damage.
Yeah. When I was reading yesterday, the MLB.com and Post-Gazette stories were no ligament. The source said no ligament damage, no torn ligaments. Sorry, excuse me, was what I saw.
Well, that's maybe one thing was said and interpreted another way.
Well, a sprain is a tear.
A sprain is damage.
A sprain is a tear. It's just degrees of torn. Usually when you say torn, you mean fully ruptured, but a sprain definitionally is a tear of some sort in a ligament or muscle. So look, it doesn't change the timetable.
It changes the risk.
Yeah, I think the not the best case scenario. The best case scenario is he's fine.
Yeah.
But a pretty probably the median scenario is what happened with Gavin Williams last year, where he was healthy enough to pitch, but he wasn't the same guy.
Yeah.
And you do see Zach Allen. I've been worried for years he's going to need Tommy John because of a sprain, a UCL sprain he suffered, and clearly it hasn't happened yet. So you do see pitchers recover from a sprain of the UCL, but you often see it go the other way too, where it becomes too torn to recover from.
All right, this one pretty much came out of nowhere. Jordan Montgomery is set for season-ending Tommy John surgery. Wasn't expected to be in the D-backs rotation. I wonder if him signing late in camp last year and just having to ramp up real quick and then having the terrible season, was there an injury involved that he just kind of pitched through? It's entirely possible, but we're losing Jordan Montgomery for probably the next year and a half. He is set for Tommy John surgery. Mookie Betts said that he plans to play on opening day. Same goes for Josh Young and Corey Seager. Josh Young was dealing with a neck injury. Corey Seager with a little bit of a calf thing that he was dealing with. So both look like they're good to go. Vinny Pasquantino will be reevaluated Thursday morning to determine his opening day availability. So this is one you have to watch closely. Make sure you have a first baseman on your bench, because it wouldn't surprise me if he's out of the lineup, or they say, look, let's play this safe, put you on the IL. You're back in 10 days, hopefully. And, we'll see Vinny Pasquantino then, but it could go a few different directions right now. The Mariners signed Cal Raleigh to a 6-year, $105 million extension with a vesting player option for 2031. I think it's well-deserved. Happy for Cal Raleigh. Scott, from a dynasty long-term perspective, just trying to figure out what happens with Harry Ford, right? Not that he hasn't really earned an opportunity yet. He hasn't blown the doors off in the minor leagues or anything, but he's been a prospect of note for a while, and just don't really see a path for him right now.
Yeah, it feels like
or anytime soon, I guess.
His stock has slipped a bit over the last year because the power growth that is expected for him keeps not happening. In fact, it's kind of trending the other way, and the exit velocity readings aren't that strong. He is very athletic, so it's possible they just move him off the position to second base or center field or something like that.
And he played a little left field last year.
Or he becomes trade bait. I think the Mariners are recognizing they have a franchise catcher here in Raleigh, who isn't the perfect fantasy player, but he's a great defender and is among the top power hitting catchers. So they're not, I don't think they're that worried about what happens with Ford. They'll cross that bridge when they come to it.
Max Scherzer is on track to start Saturday against the Orioles. Jason Foley was optioned to AAA, so he will not be the closer for the Tigers. Any guess? Who is your best guess as to who gets the first save for the Tigers? Bo Brisky, Tyler Holton, Tommy Canley, Will Vest. All options.
Oh, I think AJ Hinch relishes not tipping his hand on this, and in fact is going to keep us guessing beyond day one. I mean, I was shocked to see this happen. Jason Foley's been one of their best relievers each of the last 2 years, and so I never even thought this was a plausible scenario, him getting optioned. It does seem to me that Tigers fans are most enthusiastic about Bo Brisky, mostly because he had a couple of appearances in the postseason where I guess he locked things down. The track record is not appealing at all to me. Swinging strike rate was like 10% last year. It was like 8% this spring. That's pretty terrible. And the walks were an issue. The ERA was better during his time in the bullpen, but he walked a lot of guys, and it's not like he was missing a ton of bats. So I don't know. He looks like another Jason Foley to me in a good scenario.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's an obvious pick here.
That would be the leading contender, Bo Brisky. I mean, Tyler Holton might be the one to have just because we're more confident he's good, but we're also pretty confident he's not going to be a full-time closer. He might be part of a committee.
This does just allow me to share my favorite stat from the 2024 season about a starting pitcher or a pitcher, which is that Tyler Holton technically was a top 12 starting pitcher in fantasy last season.
Yeah. What do you have? 5 wins and 5
saves?
It's
like 7 wins and 8 saves and like a 2 ERA, but he was technically SP eligible. And I just think that's hilarious.
You know,
sometimes fantasy's stupid.
I added Bo Brisky in Tout Wars. I obviously don't really have a good read on the situation. I'm not sure anybody does. I'll throw Tommy Canley's name out there because if you're following the money, they gave him a 1-year, nearly $8 million deal. It's not nothing, and he is well established, not as a closer, but he's been a good reliever for a long time. So,
but
we'll see.
It's worth remembering back to last opening day when who do we think it was? Alex Lang.
Mm-hmm.
We thought was the closer, and we drafted him that way all preseason, and then didn't even get the first chance. It was Foley, so. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't think it's worth chasing for anything more than a few bucks in Fab.
Shane Smith will be in the White Sox rotation, so if you play in a points league and you're looking for a deep spark name, Shane Smith is one of them. Terry Francona said that while Tony Santillan is an easy choice to be the closer, he might be too valuable getting to the 9th inning. So
I thought this was
another name in the mix.
Yeah, and it makes sense. I don't know why we weren't talking about Tony Santillan more when we were talking about the Reds options. I think this comment obviously makes him the front runner now. At the very least, Francona sees him as the highest leverage option in the bullpen, which is usually going to translate to saves.
Mm-hmm.
So I would take Tony Santillan over anybody in the Tigers bullpen. I'd take him over Mike Clevenger. I'd take him over Luke Jackson. I have him just behind like Calvin Fauché when it comes to shaky closer options.
I think that's reasonable, yeah.
And we both picked him up in Tout Wars, Scott. So let's go, Tony. Let's make it happen. Mickey Moniak signed a 1-year, $1.25 million deal with the Rockies. a name to know in NL only leagues, I think. I mean, they could give him a shot. So
the Rockies, it's
yeah,
ridiculous.
Oh, Rockies. Nick Kurtz will begin the season at AAA, which surprised me. I mean, maybe we see him sooner than expected, and I know you were on top of that one, Scott. So Nick Kurtz, a name to know there. a prospect we could see with the A's at some point. And Frankie Montas is a week or two away from starting a throwing program. He is dealing with a lat injury. Let's wrap up with a little 2025 season preview. We'll talk awards, division winners, wild card picks, our World Series prediction. But let's start with awards. Rookie of the Year. Chris, who do you have in the AL and NL Rookie of the Year?
The AL Rookie of the Year will be Christian Campbell. I suppose I wish he had hit better this spring, but I said this on yesterday or the day before's podcast. I will repeat myself. Among minor leaguers who had at least 400 plate appearances last season, he had a 180 weighted runs created plus. That was 20 points better than anyone else in the minors last year. The Red Sox clearly believe in him. I'm going to go with Christian Campbell. I think Cam Smith is also a fine choice.
Okay. Did you mention the NL?
And the NL, Dylan Cruz feels that feels like the most obvious one.
Yeah. Feels like the chalky pick there. Scott, Rookie of the Year this season.
Yeah, I have Cam Smith for the AL and Dylan Cruz for the NL. I'm going with Cam Smith just because, I mean, if we're to take anything from spring training, he seems like the one more prepared to attack major league pitching. Maybe that'll quickly prove to be false, and maybe Campbell will hit the ground running. I don't know. I can only deduce it on what I've seen so far. And Cam Smith, I mean, clearly he won the Astros over with the way he looked at the plate this spring. And Dylan Cruz, yeah, chalky pick. I was tempted to take Matt Shaw here. I think if everything goes right for Shaw, there's a good chance he does have better numbers and wins the award. But I see more ways things could go wrong for Shaw than for Cruz. I think Cruz brings more defensive value. I think he has more job security. And so I picked Cruz.
Yeah, the defense is a big part of why I picked Cruz for the Rookie of the Year, just because I do think he's going to be a very valuable defender right away.
Well, Scott, I made the pick for you. Matt Shaw in the National League as the Rookie of the Year, though I was tempted to go with Quinn Matthews. I just don't know when he's going to get called up, but when he does, I think he's going to be good. I think he's going to be good.
I agree.
So he's kind of a sneaky dark horse pick, I think, there. Quinn Matthews of the Cardinals. And in the American League, homer pick, I'm going with Jason Dominguez. Can he catch a fly ball? I mean, we were talking about defense. I'm not so sure. So that could be a problem. But goes 2020. I think that's a possibility, and could win the Rookie of the Year in the American League. What about Cy Young, Scott? Who do you have in the AL and NL for Cy Young?
AL, I have Garrett Crochet. This is kind of counterintuitive to my fantasy logic, but while Tarek Skubal blew out his previous high in innings, like went well beyond what he threw just the previous season. I mean, Crochet did too, but obviously the White Sox went to great lengths to manage his workload. So now he's going to get his first chance to take on an ace workload. And maybe since he hasn't done it before, he'll hold up a little better than Skubal is what I'm thinking. And obviously, first last year among pitchers with 100 innings, first in K per 9, first in K minus walk rate, first in XFIP, first in Sierra was Crochet. He and Blake Snell were the only two pitchers with a 15% swinging strike rate, and it was actually better than 16% for both of them. So Crochet dominated in many of the areas we care the most about, and I think once it's put to the test over a full workload, it'll result in a Cy Young season, is what I'm predicting. Paul Skeens, chalkier pick there in the NL. Sort of the same thing. I'm hoping his arm is young and fresh, and he among the Cy Young candidates that allows him to keep running out there every 5 days.
Chris, Cy Young picks.
All right. Last season, Tarek Skubal was like, if he had allowed one fewer earned run, and I think it was 3 fewer hits, he would have led the majors in wins, strikeouts, ERA, and WHIP. So I'm going to go with Tarek Skubal for the American League Cy Young. On the National League side, Zach Wheeler is my pick. He doesn't, I don't know, maybe doesn't have the upside, but like, I don't know, he just had a 2.57 ERA and 10.1 K per 9 in 200
Feels like
innings.
he's due, right?
Yeah, he's never won. He's only made like 2 All-Star games, I think, in his career somehow. I think Mike Petriello from MLB.com had a really good piece last year talking about how like Zach Wheeler is putting together one of the best 7-year stretches in Major League history for a pitcher who hasn't won a Cy Young in that stretch. And
2 second-place finishes in the last 4 years.
2 second-place finishes and also 2 All-Stars. Is that the only 2 years he's made it?
Yep.
I'm going to get bold prediction. Zach Wheeler, All-Star in 2025. And he's my Cy Young,
Chris.
My Cy Young picks, I have Logan Gilbert in the American League. Not that I think wins matter, but somebody out there probably cares about wins. Can we get the guy some run support? That would be awesome for Logan Gilbert this season. Although I do kind of like Framber Valdez too. Contract year, I can see it happening. Everyone knows I love Framber Valdez. And I also love Spencer Schwellenbach, who is my pick to win the National League Cy Young, which
clearly my top 3 finish bold prediction was not bold enough because your regular prediction, Schwellenbach Cy Young.
I'm in. I'm all the way in. I probably should have drafted him over Jordan Westberg last night.
Anytime you can take someone who has won 100 inning season in their entire life to win Cy Young, I think you have to do it.
Yeah. Hey, well, Scott picked Paul Skeens, all right? So I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, he's got 2.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, Spencer Schwellenbach is my pick. I actually bet it already. I think it's like $20 to win 600. So if you want to tail that and have a little fun, let's try it. MVP, Chris, who do you got?
Aaron Judge. Bobby Witt had this bonkers season last year and was still like a win short of Aaron Judge. When the baseline for a healthy season is 55 homers, I'm going to pick you to win MVP.
What about National League?
This one is much more wide open, but I guess it's not. Shohei Ohtani. None of us are picking Shohei Ohtani, I'm pretty sure.
There's a chalkier NL pick.
Yeah.
But no, okay. The reason I'm not picking Shohei Ohtani is, one, I think the pitching stuff could be disastrous this year. I think he could go really poorly with him trying to rehab without doing an actual rehab assignment. And he's going to get more time off around his starts when he does start pitching. They've already said that. He's going to run less. I just think we get moderately less bonkers numbers for Shohei Ohtani. So if you're not picking Shohei Ohtani, it's wide open. And I will go with Kyle Tucker. I'll buy a little bit of a narrative here. Cubs make it back to the playoffs. Kyle Tucker gets a lot of credit for that. And frankly, if the plate discipline games he made last year are real, I mean, we're talking about one of the 5 best hitters in baseball.
Yeah. Scott, over to you. MVP picks for this season.
So I am going to give Bobby Witt the nod in the AL. 9.4 B WAR last year and 10.4 F WAR last year. It was an all-time great season. He just happened to be in the same league as Aaron Judge. Witt seems to get better and better. Judge is injury prone. I think Witt ekes it out this year. And I'll pick is Ellie De La Cruz, who adds more defensive value than I think a lot of people realize, which will help to bolster his WAR. But mostly offense is what I think is going to improve for him. As good as he was last year, we know there's more home run upside. The changes to his swing this spring were evident just from looking at him. And he did greatly reduce his strikeouts over that small sample. So I'm hopeful he'll add to batting average. I'm hopeful he'll add to the home run total. And, in a year where you expect Shohei Ohtani to get a full workload, both hitting and pitching, no other hitter has a chance for MVP. No other player has a chance. But I'm not sure when we'll actually see Ohtani pitching. So he managed to win just as a hitter last year, but I'm thinking somebody will beat him this year.
I'm right there with you in the American League. Scott, I think Bobby Witt Jr. gets it done this season. He just continues to get better every single year. I don't really know how much better he can possibly get. I don't know. Yeah. Does he hit 350 and he goes, 35, 35? I don't think that's going to happen, but I can see him coming close to replicating last season's batting average and maybe even increase the power and speed a little bit more this upcoming season. And realistically in the NL, Shohei Ohtani's probably going to win the MVP, but if it's not him, I'll take Corbin Carroll to have pick up where he left off in the second half, put it together over a full season, much closer to what he did as a rookie. We get something like a 25-50 season, and the D-backs despite playing in the NL West with the Dodgers, have an awesome season. They win 90-plus games. They're a wild card team, and a big reason for that is Corbin Carroll this year. Let's talk some division winners and some wild card picks. Don't need analysis. Just give me team names here. AL East. Who are we taking in the AL East?
Yankees, but I don't feel good about it.
What a homer. Yankee fan.
I can't give any analysis. I'm actually going AL East, you said?
I think this is the toughest one.
Yeah, well, I mean, whoever comes out of the East, I think is going to the World Series. Red Sox is my choice, just because I think they have so many contingencies, both on the hitting end and the pitching end. Like, their rotation looks decent right now, and that's before they get Giolito back and Cutter Crawford back. And who's the third one? There's a third one too. And then they still have Anthony.
Brian Bayo.
Roman Anthony and Marcelo Meyer waiting in the wings on the hitter side. So I think they're well poised to navigate the 162 game season.
Yeah, I'm with you, Scott. I'm taking the Red Sox in the AL East. AL Central.
Twins.
Feels pretty wide open, though.
Yeah. It's
not going to be the White Sox.
Yeah, I think it can be anybody but the White Sox.
I'm going with Royals. I think they've done the most to improve their roster since last season.
Yeah, I'm taking the Royals as well. But again, it feels pretty wide open right now in the AL Central. The AL West. This one, I mean, could be a pretty competitive division as well.
I'm going Rangers. I'm buying the bounce back.
3-team race. I'm going Astros. I think they did a good job of navigating the departure of Kyle Tucker, and roster still looks strong overall.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. AL West, I'm taking the Rangers as well, but I do think it'll be a very competitive division, as you will learn with my wild card picks here. Speaking of which, who do you guys have as your American League wild cards?
Astros, Blue Jays, and Red Sox for me. So 3 AL East teams, 1 AL West team. And it's not the Mariners. They will face cosmic retribution for their unwillingness to improve their offense this offseason. Justin Turner will make them pay.
Scott?
I'm picking the 3 more teams from the AL East. Thankfully, the schedule is more balanced now than in past years. So I got the Yankees, Blue Jays, and Orioles in. The only one I feel great about, though, is the Yankees. Yeah.
4 AL East teams in your playoffs. Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, it's could be a bloodbath of a division this upcoming season.
Blue Jays feel like my sleeper team in the AL this year.
Yep. Wild card picks for me, I have the Astros, the Yankees, and the Mariners. While I agree with you, Chris, I wish that they spent some more money on hitting. I think we could get a bounce back season from Julio Rodriguez. I think Randy Arozarena could be a little bit better as well. So I don't think the offense will be as bad, and the pitching is just so good, especially if they can get George Kirby back. So I'm sure I'll anger some fan bases here. Yes, I don't have the Orioles in the playoffs. Grayson Rodriguez is already hurt. Kind of wish they spent a little bit more on pitching this offseason. So American League is pretty tough. I think it's pretty wide open right now in general. Over to the NL East. Scott, what are we doing? Are we going homer pick? What do we got?
I mean, it wouldn't be ridiculous to pick the Braves, and
no, it's totally fine. In fact, I have the Braves as winning.
But I didn't. When I honestly compare the 2 rosters, the Phillies rotation feels a lot more durable than the Braves. And if Christopher Sanchez makes the leap this year that many are expecting after the velocity increase this spring, you put him in with Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola. And then, by the way, add maybe the best pitching prospect in the game, Andrew Painter, mid-season. There's a lot of wishing and hoping on the Braves side with the pitching staff. I do think the Braves lineup has a slight edge on the Phillies lineup, but only a slight one. And I like the Phillies bullpen better too. So I'm Phillies over Braves.
Yep. I think the Phillies have some downside risk because basically everybody except Andrew Painter who matters on that team is over 30. But as long as they don't all fall apart at the same time, they're going to be a juggernaut, I think.
Yeah, I took the Braves, like I mentioned, but I think this is going to be a very competitive division up top too, with the Braves, the Mets, and the Phillies. I think the Phillies are an awesome team too. It's just the fact that the Braves, if I think Spencer Schwellenbach's going to win the Cy Young and Chris Sale is still there, and I like Grant Holmes a lot, and their offense is amazing, and they're going to get Acuna back and Strider back at some point. It's just they're just so set up to have another awesome.
Whenever people doubt the Braves, that's when they seem to like take the division. And then last year when they're the favorites going in, they barely squeak into the playoffs.
What about the National League Central?
I think this is easier this year than in years past. And I tend to underestimate the Brewers, and maybe I'm doing it again, but the Cubs to me look like the best team on paper pretty clearly.
I agree with that.
Yep. Same for me. NL West, I don't have to ask, right? Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
Hey, it was a bold.
It was a bold prediction.
It was a bold prediction. It's not the regular one. Okay.
The likeliest outcome is they cruise to 95 wins without breaking a sweat.
Even with every one of their starting pitchers having a stint on the IL, yes.
They can cruise to 100 wins without breaking a sweat. Those are the Dodgers, by the way. They will win the National League West. What about your wild card picks?
Mets, Braves, and Diamondbacks. That feels kind of chalky. I feel like that those 6 teams feel pretty likely to make the playoffs.
I have the same 6 in. My wild cards are Phillies, D-backs, and Mets. So
yeah, Braves, Diamondback, Mets, exactly the same. Though I will say, the Padres made it last year. We were all pretty high on the Padres going into the playoffs. It was actually one of my sons driving home today asked me why I didn't have the Padres in the playoffs. Like, what changed? Who did they lose last year? Because they beat the Braves in the playoffs. And I got to thinking about, like, who did they lose? They lost Jerkson Profar. Ha-Sung Kim. We thought they were going to lose Dylan Cease maybe, but they didn't.
For me, they are paper thin is the problem. Like, I think their top line, like if everybody stayed healthy the whole season, if you turned off injuries, I think the Padres could be a 93, 95 win team. Mm-hmm. But man, like if they lose Manny, or if they lose Fernando Tatis, or if they lose one starting pitcher, and reminder, 40% of starting pitchers go on the IL at any given point in the season.
But they already have. Look at the back end of their rotation. It's Randy Vasquez and Kyle Hart. Yeah. We have no idea what to expect. So
they picked up Pivetta, and they didn't lose anybody of his stature on the pitching side.
Well, no, they did.
Who am I forgetting?
Oh my God, he had Tommy John surgery at the end of last year. Joe Musgrove, and Darvish is not ready for the season. And
Darvish isn't right, but Musgrove wasn't really there last year for much either. I don't know. I had trouble defending my exclusion of the Padres to my 10 and 7-year-olds. So they're in the mix too, but I have them out of the playoffs to begin in my preseason predictions.
It's a fair question, but let's be honest. The National League is stacked. It is much more stacked than the American League, and only 6 teams can make it. I mean, that's part of, trying to figure this puzzle out, and anything can happen. Obviously the Padres could be awesome again this upcoming season, but the Mets added Juan Soto, and the D-backs added Corbin Burns, and all these other teams are really good. The Cubs added Kyle Tucker. So it's just it's a tough National League.
I'll flip what Scott said. When people expect the Mets to do well, that's when things tend to go wrong for the Mets. And expectations are really high for a Mets team that, on paper is good, but not a juggernaut.
The lineup is good. The pitching is already being challenged. We all picked them third for the division in the playoffs, but third in the division. So, we're cautious.
All right, guys. The pinnacle of the season, the World Series. What you got?
Red Sox. I'm sorry, not Red Sox, over Phillies. Phillies over Red Sox.
Okay, Chris?
Braves over Rangers is what I went with.
I would prefer that outcome.
I would imagine so, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, I will take the low-hanging fruit. The Dodgers. Someone has to pick the Dodgers.
Oh, that's bold.
Yeah, I know. I'm so bold. But yes, the Dodgers will win the World Series this season over and the American League is wide open, I think. The Texas Rangers. So I'm there with you, Chris. Can they get a healthy season out of Jacob deGrom? Probably have to trade for another pitcher at some point.
They've got like 8 interesting arms in their rotation, though. I don't know if they're 8 good arms, but the talent is enviable.
Yeah. I think the offense is just going to be.
Yeah, I think the offense bounces back.
A big bounce back from the Rangers lineup this upcoming season.
I was really upset
bullpen, they probably got to figure some things out there.
Really upset in the For the People podcast league that I didn't take Corey Seager. I should have done it because I don't think I have him on any teams this year, and that was my last chance. And I think Corey Seager's going to have an awesome year.
Too.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, we did it. We are here. Happy opening day, and thank you to everybody for supporting us throughout draft prep season. Obviously, it was a crazy time. We did the mock draft mega stream, which was a lot of fun, and everything else, sleepers, breakouts, bust, position previews, and you guys were there with us all throughout the course of draft prep season. So we appreciate it. Now the fun begins. We're going to be up late where we're recapping games and everything, and it's a really, really long season. So buckle up, get ready. We are here. We're going to wrap there for Scott and Chris. I am Frank. Thanks as always for tuning in to Fantasy Baseball today. Please make sure to follow and leave a 5-star rating on Apple or Spotify. And we will be back again tomorrow with games to recap. Bye-bye.